Hi, today we're on our range, to which I have exclusive access, and we're talking about Federal Premium 22 Long Rifle punch ammunition. Many people have contacted me asking me to do a review of this type of ammo, and a viewer gave me this box of ammo. Thank you very much. So here we are. And I'll shoot this alongside some other types of 22 long rifle ammo that are considered to be high performance, such as CCI Minimag, CCI Stinger, and Remington Yellow Jacket, and we'll see how the punch ammo stacks up. And we'll start with a close-up of what these ammunitions look like. From left to right, our ammunitions are our Federal Punch 29 grain flat nose, CCI Minimag 36 grain hollow point, CCI Stinger 32 grain hollow point, and Remington Yellow Jacket 33 grain truncated cone hollow point. Before we even get started, there's two very important things I have to point out. One, we saw that our different types of 22 ammo have different projectile weights, and some people would consider that comparing them would be unfair. I'm going to say that it is fair because your Federal 22 long rifle punch ammunition is marketed for personal defense. It actually has the words personal defense on the box. So I'm going to compare it to 22 ammunition that I would consider to be good and or popular choices if someone were going to use a 22 long rifle for concealed carry, personal protection, home defense. The second thing is, this has an advertised velocity printed on the box of 1,070 feet per second. That does not sound particularly impressive, especially when you compare it to our CCI Minimag, which has an advertised velocity printed on the box of 1,260. 190 feet per second more with a bullet that's significantly heavier. Okay, you have to read the fine print. When you look at ballistics charts and you look at the velocity of 22 long rifle ammunition, that is almost always achieved using rifle-length barrels. Right here on the box, it's printed velocity achieved through 2-inch barrel. You have to read the fine print before you count this out. So let's go to the chronograph and see what kind of velocities we get using several barrel lengths. I have the chronograph set up at 7 yards. I have my Ruger 1022 with an 18.5-inch barrel, and we'll start with CCI Minimag 36 grain hollow point. $13.09. 1289, 1283, 1281, 1325, 1315, and 1296. Let's see how that compares to our other ammo. And now our CCI Stinger 32 grain hollow point. $15.01. 15.62. 15.45. 15.32. 15.49, and 15.51. Let's try another type of ammo. And now Remington Yellow Jacket 33 grain truncated cone hollow point. $13.09. 12.86. 12.87, 12.87, 13.40, 13.29, 13.28, and 12.48. And now our Federal Punch 29 grain flat nose. $15.13. 15.26. 15.28. 15.12. 1545, 1535, and 1533. Now let's try a different type of firearm. Now let's see what kind of velocities we get out of a handgun. I've got my Beretta M922 with a 5 1/4 inch barrel, and again we'll start with the mini mags. $11.15, $11.04, $10.92, $11.29, $10.91, and $11.16. Let's see how that compares to the Stingers. And now the Stingers. $12.29, $11.14, $12.66, $12.52, $12.59, $12.12, and $11.13. Let's try another type of ammo. And now our Yellow Jackets. $10.78, $10.99, $10.91, $1100, $10.75, and $11.26. Now let's see how those compare to our Federal Punch. And now, our Federal Punch ammunition. $12.45, $12.94, $12.45, $12.73, $12.64, and $12.20. Let's try one more firearm. Now I've got my Beretta Model 21A, which according to my ruler has a 2 3/8 inch barrel, and we'll start with the mini mags. $8.99, $9.36, $9.54, $9.04, $9.10, and $9.10. So we'll cut out one of those 9.10s. Let's see how that compares to our other ammunitions. And now the CCI Stingers. $9.79, $9.84, $9.88, $9.76, and $10.18. Let's try our Yellow Jackets. And now our Remington Yellow Jackets. Before I shoot these, there's two things. One, Yellow Jackets have a reputation for not working really well in all autoloaders, so we'll see how they do in the 21A. And two, you may have noticed that I've moved a little bit closer to the chronograph when using this pistol. That will not affect our chronograph readings. We have a presentation on that if you'd like to watch it. But it can affect the health of the chronograph. $8.80, $8.97, 897. 906. 958. And 913. Now, let's try our Federal Punch. And now our Federal Punch ammunition. 1,040. 1,014. 1,024. 1,018. 1,021. And 1,041. Now, just a second ago I said it was 1,021. That was actually 1,027. But with that, let's go crunch the numbers. Well, I crunched the numbers and here they are. And of course it comes with the normal caveats that chronographs don't always agree with each other, and certain environmental factors like ambient temperature and elevation can affect chronograph results. And the results I got were, with the Ruger 1022 and its 18.5-inch barrel with the CCI mini mags, we got a mean velocity of 1,299 feet per second. With the Stingers, we got 1540. That's a lot more. Now remember that the Stinger is a 32 grain bullet, not a 36, so that is less, but still 1540 is an impressive velocity. With your Yellow Jackets, we got a velocity of 1303. Now that's a 33 grain bullet, so it's 3 grains less than the mini mag, but we're also seeing a velocity of 4 feet per second more. Now 4 feet per second more, that's well within the variation of one round to the next, and not enough difference to make a difference. So even though there's a slight bullet weight, I'm going to say that the performance of the 2 rounds, there isn't enough difference to matter. But when we get over to the Punch ammunition, we can see a velocity of 1544. Now that is impressive. However, the velocity with the Stingers was 1540. So we see a difference of 4 feet per second, well within the variation of one round to the next, not enough difference to make a difference. And remember, the Punch is a 29 grain bullet compared to the Stinger 32 grain bullet. So it's achieving that velocity with a slightly lighter bullet. Now when we go to our M922 with this 5¼ inch barrel, we expect to lose some velocity, and that's exactly what we got. With the mini mags, we see a velocity of 1107. With the Stingers, 1206. That's 99 feet per second more, so that's still quite a bit more. With our Yellow Jacket ammunition, we see a velocity of 1094, so that's 13 feet per second less than the mini mags. Again, I'm going to say well within the variation of one round to the next. Not really enough difference to make a difference. With our Punch ammunition, we see a velocity of 1256. Okay, that sounds impressive. That's 50 feet per second more than the Stingers got out of the pistol. And although 50 feet per second more sounds like a lot, I'm going to say that might not be as significant when we're talking about velocities above 1200. And remember, the Punch ammunition achieved that with a bullet that's 3 grains lighter. But where it really matters is when we get down to our Beretta 21A with its 2 3/8 inch barrel. Remember, the Punch ammunition is marketed as a personal defense ammo, so the shorter barreled gun becomes relevant. And here we see that our mini mag ammunition has a velocity of 920. Compared to our Yellow Jacket over here with 910, we'll sing the same song, well within the variation of one round to the next, not enough difference to make a difference. But with our Stinger ammunition, we see a velocity of 989. That's 69 feet per second more than our mini mag. So while 50 feet per second more up here might not be that impressive with velocities above 1200, 69 feet per second when you're talking about velocities down in the 900s, I'm going to say is impressive. But when we get over to our Punch ammunition, we see a velocity of 1027. That's 107 feet per second more than our mini mag. Now that sounds like a lot more. But here's where we have to remember that the Punch is a 29 grain bullet, the mini mag is a 36 grain bullet. So we're talking about a loss of 7 grains. Now that might not sound like much, but when you consider that the mini mag is a 36 grain bullet, losing 7 grains is about 20%. So that is significant. But what we have to put into all of this is the concept of when you're talking about 20% less in 22 long rifle ammunition, 20% of nothing is still nothing. A new version of the adage, twice nothing is still nothing. All of these velocities and all of these minute differences in bullet weight may very well make very little difference when it comes to shooting the intended target. So although a velocity of 107 feet per second more down on our bottom line here sounds like a lot more, it may not be a lot more. And that brings me to the bottom line of All of these things are just numbers on paper. How will this translate into effectiveness on the intended target? Let's see if we can put that to the test. To test the effectiveness of our ammunition, we're going to use something we call the meat target. For those who haven't seen it before, the meat target is leather couch skin, followed by pork steak pectorals, pork ribs, a bag of oranges to simulate lung tissue, more pork ribs on the back, 4 layers of lab coat on the front, 4 layers on the back, and the whole thing followed by the new and improved high-tech fleece bullet stop. And I'm going to shoot this from 7 yards, and I'll start with my Beretta M922, which is loaded with our CCI mini mags and our Remington Yellow Jackets. We saw that their performance on paper seemed to be pretty close. Let's see how they compare in terms of performance in our meat target. We've got our meat target taken apart. Our ribs on the front of the target have 22 caliber holes through them. Where projectiles actually hit ribs, broke them. We see 22 caliber holes through our orange lung tissue. Didn't tear up our oranges too much. The one that is torn up is where I was looking for a projectile. Some of our projectiles were stopped in the orange lung tissue. Some were stopped by the ribs on the back of the target. Some were stopped by the lab coat on the back of the target. None of them actually made it through to our fleece bullet stop. But let's take a close-up look at these projectiles. Here's our Yellow Jacket projectiles, and you can see that they have very good expansion. Now, by contrast, here's our mini mag projectiles, and you can see that the expansion is to some degree good, but not as good. Here's one that has almost no expansion. One of the projectiles fell on the ground and I couldn't find it. So although on our chart it would appear that our mini mags have greater performance than the Yellow Jackets, in our meat target, the Yellow Jackets performed rather impressively. Now I have a new meat target set up, and I have my M922 loaded with the stingers and the punch ammunition. Let's see what kind of results we get now. We've got our meat target taken apart, and there's 2 very important things I have to point out. One, this is an earplug case. I wear earplugs with every shot I take. And although I do not consider safety glasses really necessary when using the chronograph, I do wear them when I'm shooting things like the meat target. I just typically take them off before I get back on camera. 2, our CCI stingers are hollow points. Our Federal punch ammunition are flat-nosed solid ammunition. And we can see the difference in effect between those 2 rounds in this meat target. Our ribs on the front of the target, as the projectiles go in, we just see 22 caliber bullet holes. Those projectiles coming out the back, we see some are still just 22 caliber holes, some have obvious hollow point expansion. We see this continue as the bullets go through our orange lung tissue. Those hit with the punch ammunition just have a bullet hole in one side and out the other. Those hit with the stinger hollow point projectiles, there's quite a bit of damage. Now, when you're trying to shoot a large intended target with something low powered like .22 long rifle, penetration becomes a big concern. Some people are concerned that if you have good hollow point expansion, you're going to get insufficient penetration. Well, in this case, of the 8 projectiles I recovered, 4 stinger hollow points and 4 punch flat noses, all of them were stopped by the lab coat on the back of the target or the first layer of fleece. So damage significantly different, penetration no significant difference at all. Now let's take a close-up look at these projectiles. Here's our punch projectiles, and we see limited deformation to the flat-nosed projectiles. Now by contrast, here's our stinger projectiles, and we see a lot of hollow point expansion. So the 2 types of projectiles have equal penetration, but with our stingers we saw significantly more damage to the intended target. We're going to shoot one more meat target. Remember that the Federal punch ammunition is labeled as personal defense, so it's very likely someone's going to be doing concealed carry with a handgun smaller than my M922. So now I have my Beretta 21A loaded with the stingers and the Federal punch ammunition. Let's see what kind of results we get with this. So with our stingers and our Federal punch ammunition being fired from the 21A, we still saw that all of the projectiles were stopped by the lab coat on the back of the target or by the first layer of fleece. But now let's take a close-up look. Here's our Federal punch projectiles, and we can see, just like before, very little deformation. But now, here's our stinger projectiles. When fired out of the 21A, the stingers dropped below expansion threshold, so although the penetration was equal with both types of ammunition, the stingers are now not really giving you any advantage. Now there's one more thing we want to cover. Someone told me that there are unsubstantiated rumors that Federal punch ammunition will start tumbling and it will not shoot accurately when shot from longer barrels. Let's see if we can put that to the test. I've got my Ruger 1022 with an 18.5-inch barrel. I'll go back 25 yards and I'll shoot our Gopher targets, which were donated by a viewer, thank you. And I'll shoot the target on your left with the CCI Mini Mags and the target on your right with the Federal punch ammunition. And let's see what kind of results we get. Remember, this is me shooting offhand at 25 yards, and we see with our CCI Mini Mags a centered group that's not too bad. With our Federal punch ammunition, we may see a shift in point of impact. That's understandable considering the difference in velocity and projectile weight. Now the shift back to the center, I probably did that subconsciously. But we do see a pretty good group, and I see no evidence whatsoever of bullet tumbling. Now there's one more thing I want to add. I only had 50 rounds of this Federal punch ammunition, and I've now fired all of it. You saw in shooting the Gopher targets there was a delay between the 9th and 10th round. That's because I had a malfunction. But that was the only malfunction I had with this ammunition, regardless of which firearm I was using. Now the takeaways from all of this today. We saw that the Federal punch ammunition did have impressive velocity. But when compared to the CCI Stingers, it really wasn't that impressive. When shooting our meat target compared to the CCI Stingers, we saw that their penetration was equal, but the Stingers had hollow point expansion and did a lot more damage. Even when shooting the Beretta 21A, which is propelling those Stingers below expansion threshold, we still saw that the Stingers and the Federal punch had equal penetration and did equal damage. Now, although we did not shoot the Yellow Jackets and the Mini Mags through the 21A today, I have done that demonstration on a previous occasion, and I found that, of course, when using the 21A, the Mini Mags are below expansion threshold, but I found that the only 22 long rifle ammunition that I've ever fired that does have hollow point expansion in those very short barrels is the Remington Yellow Jacket. So even though the results we saw didn't seem that impressive, if you're shooting a handgun with a very short barrel, that might be something to consider. But the real bottom line, at least for me, is that although the Federal punch ammunition was impressive, it wasn't that impressive compared to things like the Remington Yellow Jacket and the CCI Stinger that have both been around for about 40 years. And it brings me to the bottom line of this question. Is the Federal punch ammunition good ammunition? I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to say that I'm not willing to pay a premium price for it. There's also the question, is it the right ammunition for me? And I'm going to say no. Is it the right ammunition for you? You be the judge. So as always, don't try this home on what you call a professional, and thanks for watching the Federal Premium Personal Defense Punch 22 long rifle ammunition video.